Yeah, maybe, but the racket will talk.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Racket Will Talk podcast. I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Sam.
We are long-time tennis fans who met on tennis Twitter and thought our conversations and takes were so good that the whole world just had to hear them. This episode is our first week recap of the Australian Open and a look ahead to the quarterfinals. So let's just start with the women's draw. Sam.
I actually really liked the first week overall, We had a good blend, I felt, of top players coming through, performing quite well, and also a few surprises, a few more interesting matches, some things we maybe didn't expect as much, which I think is always a good balance. Obviously, when you fill in your draw, you're always expecting most of the top players to show up, to keep the same form.
You're always expecting that.
Well, I mean, yeah, I am, but generally that's how it goes, that's how it's set up, the media accounts will tweet, projected quarterfinals, Swiatek will meet the 8th seed or whatever. But this time, yeah, I think we got a nice blend of a bit of chaos here and there, but still mostly the main contenders are still around, I would say. So a good blend, some good matches, some obviously much more straightforward ones. So I enjoyed it. I liked it overall. How did you feel?
Yeah, I agree actually. I kind of hadn't thought of it as an entity before now, as a first week, but I find something really satisfying about those first few round kind of dominations by the top players. I think there's something quite, especially on the women's side, it's so exciting, kind of them asserting their dominance. You just get to see them playing at their absolute best and kind of show how good they are, because you realise everyone in these draws is like a really good tennis player, but when you're number 1, number 2, number 3 in the world, I don't know, I think it's cool. And we've obviously had a long period of upsets and all this kind of WTA is completely open for whoever wants to win anything. That when you get those performances, it's kind of, I don't know, steadies the ship. But then you're right, a blend of kind of unexpected results. I think almost definitely the most notable one being Qinwen losing to Laura Siegemund, which is, I don't know, it's just such a funny crossover in personalities, in games, in levels of patience, in times between serves, everything.
That was quite something, yeah.
And then kind of those few peppered, interesting early round matchups that you kind of make sure you're tuned in for. Those ones like two good players who are for some reason or another not ranked where they should be. Yeah, it was a nice balance on the women's side. So what have we got from that first week then? What are we looking ahead to?
We are looking ahead to the quarterfinals matches, which were just decided today. I mean, the bottom half played the round of 16 matches early on, and so now we have the full quarterfinals lineup, which starts obviously tomorrow with the top half where Sabalenka and Pavlyuchenkova will face off. You also have Goff against Paula Badosa, and then on the bottom half you have Swiatek facing Emma Navarro, and the last quarterfinal match would be
do you want me to say? Madison Keys and Lina Svitolina.
And Madison Keys against Svitolina. I don't know how I forgot that. And so I think we can start with the top half with Sabalenka facing Pavlyuchenkova. Overall, I felt like this was a pretty convincing 4 matches for Sabalenka. They were actually maybe not as utterly dominant as you might expect in some of these matchups. But, overall she competed well as always and got better as it went on. Facing Andreeva in the 4th round, I feel like she really had it all together. She didn't seem like there was any tension left, whereas in the earlier matches you could sense that some things she was not as happy about, some mistakes, some elements that she felt like she could fix, and now it feels like she's really in the groove and ready to perform even more so.
That first round match that we'd mentioned before, the Sloane-Stephens sort of theoretical exciting matchup, it went basically as we expected. Was a sketchy moment in there where Sabalenka lost a lead, which is the same as what happened to her in Roland Garros against Sloane-Stephens. So I don't know what that's about, but obviously got through that okay. That Andreeva match was, I mean, I'm sure Andreeva is very, very, very bored of playing Sabalenka. They've played, I think, 5 times, and Andreeva's still like 12. And it's like a harsh player for that to be your frequent matchup, you know? We had this one year where Pliskova and Pegula were playing all the time. And it's fine, because, like, you know, it's not the end of the world, but Sabalenka being the player that you're facing all the time, it's harsh. And Andreeva's, at the moment, her strength is her return game. It's really tricky to go up against Sabalenka, who's an excellent server and an excellent returner. She's got more power. She can move the ball around the way Andreeva can. There's not much to frustrate or disrupt Sabalenka in any way, and I think she even gives her kind of quite a nice rhythm to rally from for as long as Sabalenka can rally. So yeah, I do feel a bit bad in that, and that match Andreeva was getting frustrated and upset during the match and a bit emotional as well, I think. Yeah, maybe she has high expectations for herself.
Still bound to happen for her. I actually feel like she's already improved a bit in that way. She used to get like really frustrated, you know, like almost crying on court kind of stuff. And now you can still see it sometimes, but I feel like she's already improving in that way as well. But the bigger test for Sabalenka was probably the Towson match, where 2 close sets where, you know, sometimes there were like a few weird moments, like she lost her serve way more often than you would expect her to. So, you know, still maybe finding her form there, but Towson was obviously playing great tennis, so not that shocking a scoreline, honestly. And then, yeah, as we said, she improved much more in the next round. So, and now she faces Pavlyuchenkova, which...
That's another win.
Yeah, well, I think, we'll do more of the like prediction later, but that's pretty straightforward, honestly, as a quarter. I think she would have been like way more worried about Vekic, who she has historically really struggled with.
She obviously got that win against Vekic 2 years ago in her first title run in Australia. So that does kind of bring us on to how Pavlyuchenkova got to this quarterfinal, though. She beat Vekic in the oh crap, where did she beat Vekic? Oh my God.
In the 4th round.
In the 4th round. Maybe you could talk about Pavlyuchenkova's draw. Have you watched any of her matches?
I honestly didn't see many of them. Well, I picked up some of the highlights. She obviously was one of the main beneficiaries of the Chinwen upset, because she faced Sigmund in the 3rd round. So obviously that's on paper much easier, and she actually won that one like really straightforwardly. She actually struggled early on. She faced Yuan and Potapova, and both of them went to like 3. She didn't seem like she was in great form, but then I guess she found her groove and got 2 good wins against Sigmund and Vekic, and now here she is. So she kind of does this like every other year, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. I kind of forget about her, and then all of a sudden here she is in the 4th round or the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam, and you're like, oh yeah, she's fine, and she's always like a top 30 seed.
Yeah, she can do it, you know. I think the last one was actually 2 years ago at
Roland Garros.
RG.
Yes, she lost in the quarterfinals to Mukova.
I think her run ends here unless something really wild happens. The head-to-head is actually 2-1 in her favor, but most of these were pre-Sabalenka being arguably, well, most definitely now is the best player in the world.
Sabalenka 1.0 or even 0.5 in some of those cases. I think she's a player you'd quite like to see in your draw, not because she's not good, but because she's quite knowable, and she's got a pretty classic WTA game, you know, big hitter. She's been on tour for ages as well, so like you don't have that kind of young fire that you might get with some of those players. I think she's a player you'd quite like to face, and yeah. That's good for Sabalenka.
On paper, she had like some names and some more difficult early matches, but now we are getting into the quarters, and it actually feels easier than maybe the Towson match even. So I think she'll do pretty well, and she should win this quite straightforwardly. This could age horribly, obviously.
I hope so. I think Sabalenka hasn't lost a set.
No, she
hasn't lost a set in Australia since the final.
Oh yeah, that's true, huh? Since we're back, you know.
In the Australian Open, yes. I think, did she lose a set to Boskova?
I don't think so, but let us not forget the lost set to Polina Kudermetova just
2
weeks ago.
Sam's new queen. Yeah, sorry, that's my bad. No, I'm forgetting. I think Boskova played Andreeva 3 sets. Polina Kudermetova, the better Kudermetova, played Sabalenka 3 sets. So Sabalenka hasn't lost a set in the Australian Open since the final against Rybakina. And I don't think she'd lost a set since, or she maybe lost one in that on the way to that final against Bencic or something like that. No, she didn't. Let me have a look.
I don't think so, no.
Let's have a look. Hold on. 20. 3. No, so last 3 Australian Opens, Sabalenka's only lost 1 set, and it was to Rybakina in that final. So a forgivable set loss, I think you could argue. Incredible. I mean, it'll have to be pretty annoying for Vika, who's like... She's like, the one thing I have is the Australian Open. I could be the best Belarusian ever at the Australian Open.
Well, not anymore. Yeah, no, it's gone already, I think. Yeah.
Well, yeah, probably. So, yeah, I mean, Sabalenka looking quite good for the three-peat.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll mention like the semis and the potential finals and stuff, but she's looking good, as we would expect.
So the winner of that Sabalenka-Pavlyuchenkova quarterfinal will play the winner of Coco Gauff versus Paula Badosa. How did those two get there?
Gauff had like an okay draw, like again some names, but pretty straightforward. Actually, it's quite funny. One of her toughest sets so far was the second set against Biraj in the second round, where she, you know, I actually think Biraj, like, she served for the sets. I think
she did serve for the set.
That was quite something. I'm
pretty confident Coco would have kind of clawed back from that position, but Jodie Barrage completely crumbled. She got herself into a position to win this set. She was serving for it. She's playing pretty well, hitting quite big. Coco obviously wasn't at her best. And then it was just nothing. It was the classic thing of a lower ranked player in a position to win against a top player and kind of crumbling from there. I think, I like to think Jodie Barrage was like trying to get a bit of revenge on Coco, because Coco obviously had no idea who she was. She was like in the on-court interview before after her previous round, Coco was making all kind of things up about her, which is fair enough. There's like 200 players you could play.
She tried.
She tried. Yeah, she said something about how she had a great season last year. I think Jodie Barrage has been injured all year.
I think she meant Bolter or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. She probably... Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to remember. And to be fair, Jodie Barrage looks exactly like Laura Robson, so maybe she was confused between them.
but yeah, overall, Gauff, I think she played pretty well. Not quite Unity Cup level. Actually, quite far from it. But she still, like, wasn't in the trenches, which is, you know, some place she has been quite a lot over the past few years, but this time she was just, you know, carefully managing her draw. You know, she dropped a set to Bencic, which was definitely her most, like, important match, I would say, for now, because Bencic was actually playing quite well. She took the first set. Coco was still not playing all that well. She, you know, kind of lost her way, was hitting double faults, but she fought back really nicely. She knew that if she made it like physical enough, that if she just kept her focus, Bencic wouldn't be able to outlast her. Like, she wasn't even close in the 2 other sets. So I actually think that was a really nice display, and she, like Sabalenka, actually could improve in the quarters.
And I think the thing about Coco that makes you just trust her like so much is that fight. I know it's such a cliche, but the way she fights back, and the way she, even if her game is kind of going away from her in various different ways, like, you know, she's never going to give up on it. When everything's a bit on the rails, you think you trust her to kind of come through.
I mean, you know, she has so much experience, like, fighting back when her game is at its, like, absolute worst, you know, like, she has done it a lot. So when it's just, like, not amazing, but still pretty good, obviously she'll have confidence that she can do it, because on paper that actually seems like an easier thing to do.
Yeah, that's kind of the point of that Brad Gilbert winning ugly philosophy, isn't it? It's that, like, okay, great that you can win when your game is really good, but let's get those wins when the game's not quite there.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not even winning ugly. That's she used to do it like all the time. That was like half of her matches, honestly. And now she's, you know, not winning ugly. She's just playing decent, like at like, I don't know, like 70-80%, which obviously she would want that to be even higher, but she finds a way, and it actually seems like she can seems really repeatable, and seems like she can improve and do even better here in the quarter. And she will face Badosa, who had quite an interesting draw, not that difficult, honestly. The one tough match turned out to be the one against Kostyuk.
Classic.
Yeah, well, they have done this before at AO.
They've done it with, there was the one at Australian Open where it was 2022, I think, where everyone was...
3? Was it 22? Oh, it was the
yeah,
first.
it was because it was the year that
It was the first. It was the first Sabalenka AO, I think.
No, it wasn't. It was this. It was the Sabalenka double fault AO because they were both wearing that red kit. I think. Yeah.
Oh yes, that's a good way to remember it. Yeah.
Yes, and they were falling over each other. I mean, I that was a hilarious match. I do love watching Kostyuk, and I love watching her in those 3-set matches. I think like if you've got a lot of time to kill and you're looking for something a bit chaotic, maybe not super high quality, dramatic, you turn on a Kostyuk match and that's going to get you there. And she plays 3 sets against everyone. It doesn't matter who it is.
That's true. Yeah, she had this amazing match against Goff last year. Well, not amazing like quality-wise, but drama was like kind of everything. I actually really liked it. It was fun. But yeah, as far as like this quarter match goes, I would favor Goff quite heavily, honestly. I think she would be more of a challenge than Pavlyuchenkova is for Sabalenka, but I would favor Goff like quite.
That makes sense. I mean, I would say kind of at their best, Badosa's a better player than Pavlyuchenkova. She's got a bit more, let's say she spent a decent amount of time being like an elite top 10 player, so that helps as well. The matchups as well. They've played 6 times, Badosa and Goff, and they're 3-3, yeah. So Goff won both of them last year, but they were both 3 sets. Pretty notable. And then obviously the overall head-to-head being 3-3. Badosa, after having only one career quarterfinal, if I'm remembering correctly, has now had 2 in a row at the last 2 slams, so that's good for her. She was helped in quite some way by Olga Danilovic triumphing. Is that a word? She was helped in quite a way by Danilovic beating Pegula in the 3rd round.
Yeah, that was a big shock to me, honestly.
Yeah, well, I did say
you said she could be vulnerable, but you know Pegula tends to be quite reliable.
Here's what I think about Pegula. I think that there almost always in a slam is going to be a player who is peaking out of their mind or just a legitimately good enough player to beat her, to make her not always consistently make those semifinals or finals. I just think that it's kind of inevitable if she faces like Azarenka and Azarenka's really really feeling it, or I don't know, like maybe a big hitter when they're really on their game. I just see her.
Yeah, Keys beat her at the US Open, I think.
Yeah, and I just think that there's, as kind of good as she is and as consistent as she is, there's like that kind of 1% of space for someone to rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
And Danilovic, very talented, can be kind of tricky being left-handed. She's in a bit of a kind of a good era of her career. She won her 2nd title last year. She had the Roland Garros decent run. I was surprised, but like I said, she was the one I saw most likely to lose early, although obviously Chinwen lost before her. So that's how Badosa got to that place, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think it could go 3, but in that setting I would favor Goff, who I think Badosa is a good competitor, but not on the level of Goff, I don't think. Yeah, I think she'll be favoured.
Yeah, I think Coco's got the game, especially recently, to beat her. I think she's got the fitness. I mean, Badosa does outlast a lot of her opponents and sometimes like outclutch them. I trust Coco on one of those fronts. So yeah, I can see a 3-set match, but also expecting the same result. And then the second 2 quarterfinals.
We have Swiatek facing Navarro. I think we can, as a match, I think it might be interesting, but honestly, this quarter is actually quite funny because there is a huge gap in how the respective first weeks went. Like, It's kind of hilarious. Like, the time spent on court, I don't know if you saw that. It's like 4 hours 30 for Swiatek and 10 hours something for Navarro, who has just been fighting, 3-setters every single time, super tight. So that's actually the win for Navarro. Feels like it was getting there, honestly.
Okay, let me counter this with Emma Navarro. I know she is not super liked, and I know she's not, as in I don't think her game really is particularly alluring. It's not very flashy most of the time. I think people can sometimes struggle to see where the high quality is, like where's the top 10 tennis in there. But honestly, I see it. I really do.
So do I.
I mean, I saw it a while ago. not a while, like last year I could see it, but then it kind of feels like, okay, here we have a player who's like probably riding a good streak. Basically, I thought it's not like the top 10ness isn't built into her. It's not an inevitability that this was always going to be an elite player. She's doing really, really well at the moment. But I watched one of her, many 3-setters against Ons, and like, there's not that many players who can really go kind of toe to toe with Ons at Ons's game. Some of those points, those silly points that Ons plays, Navarro is winning. She's got all of the tools.
She does have those
to face Ons. I like her ground strokes. I like the angles she can get, especially on like her forehand. She's really fit. So I trust her after these back-to-back 3-set matches to not be, physically overwhelmed. I know it's Iga and she's playing really, really well, but I don't know. I'm actually quite excited for this match, having watched a bit of Navarro.
It's also interesting insofar as it's by far the biggest challenge Iga will have faced this far. We had to talk about it. Iga had... I mentioned in the preview that she had, for her, a comfortable draw, and it turned out to be even more comfortable because the bigger dangers in that section would be Alexandrova or Anisimova, and neither actually made it. It was Raducanu who not only made it this far, and she's an easier matchup for Świątek than these two, and also Raducanu herself was not playing all that well, at all in that match. So it ended up being bagels upon bagels for kind of everyone.
Yeah, so Iga on the way to the quarterfinal, a bagel per match, which is nice, but...
And she didn't actually have one against Siniakova, who was for now, yeah. So actually that was a low-key fun match. Siniakova had some great moments of Sabalenka impersonation. She did it pretty well.
If you're talking about tools, Siniakova's got all the tools.
Yeah, it was quite impressive actually. But yeah, beyond that, Świątek really dominant. And actually, I don't think people who don't watch her that much realize when she bagels someone. Sometimes she can bagel someone and not execute at such a high level. She can be at 70%ish and just bagel because, I don't know, she wins all the important points, or the opponent is not playing well at all. But here felt quite different actually.
I also think, especially in previous years, she wins almost 50% of return points, sometimes over that, and her serve is it's good. It was worse, it's better now, but it's almost like she wins service games and return games in the same way. So her bageling someone comes from a different place, if that makes sense. She's such an elite returner, and that's such a big part of her game, that the bagels will come more for her even when she's not playing at her top level than they do for other players who are a similar level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I do think it makes sense. But also her serve actually has improved to the point where it's gotten difficult to break her. Even I think it will be really interesting to see how the rest of the tournament unfolds for her in that way, because so far it looks really difficult for opponents who obviously weren't quite a match for her in really any way. But I actually think she's executing kind of everything at a really strong level. Everything looks stronger than it has looked for quite a while actually.
Are we at all concerned? This is a genuine question. Are we at all concerned by the ease with which she's made it to this match, and then she's going to kind of hit a wall of, this is actually a good player, a really good player, or what?
I think if we see that, it's more likely to be in the semis than in the quarters, because Navarro has all the tools and stuff, but that's still not really the profile you'd think could suddenly be really really difficult. I think a really good keys that would be really sudden, and in that moment she would probably feel the lack of difficulty in her previous matches. But yeah, I think it's a good point. Honestly, I think she's used to doing this, being really dominant. At Roland Garros, it never feels like an issue, honestly. Well, but because she's just way better in that one. But I think she's really intense and focused enough overall that I wouldn't expect her to crumble because someone is actually putting up a fight,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because usually sometimes it can seem as if even someone goes up in the scoreline, it's early on, she can kind of get herself into a bit of a frustration because she's so unused to that, being in that situation, that she's kind of a bit more calm now. She had the losses in the United Cup to maybe not feel as, or the loss in the United Cup to maybe not feel as invincible. She knows Emma Navarro's pretty good. Have they played before?
They played in an ITF in Charleston in 2018. I actually looked that up.
Was it Daddy's tournament?
Yes, it was. I mean, she didn't play like anything else before she left college, so it makes sense. But yeah, and actually on Igor, like 6 love 60.
Oh no! Honestly,
so, I'm not saying.
If I were to say who's improved more, I would say Emma Navarro. She's a lot better than she was back then.
Since 2018, I think so. So there can be a debate there. But I actually think you guys. That's maybe the main improvement from last year, even more so than the serve, is the level of like compete. She won like so many of these like really, really difficult three setters in like really big matches, which I think could actually help her. Even, she hasn't had this level of competition this year, but it's something she knows she has in her now, like it's not, oh, I'm going to 3, it's panic mode, I think she'll show something.
I seriously look forward to this match.
I think it's could be fun.
The last one is the forgettable one.
It's not forgettable.
The grandmas
I just happened
of the
to
draw.
Forget it for grandmas being 29.
Yeah, 29 to 30. Well, compared to the kids in here, actually Pavlyuchenkova must be in her 30s. 33.
So yeah, what do we have here? It's an interesting quarter. Like, they've played like a lot, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very pre-COVID, slightly vintage type matchup. It's kind of thing you're seeing at the WTA finals in 2018 or something like that. I'm into it though. I like it.
It was funny, I actually listened to Key's press conference, and she mentioned the fact that she watched Svitolina beat Paolini this week, and I don't think she had watched Svitolina 2.0 much at all, and she was like, oh wow, she's like really going for it. It's like, well, she isn't as much of a defensive player nearly as much. That's a big difference. So it will be interesting to see how that matchup looks now.
We'll go through quickly who those two beat, because both kind of slightly unexpected players to be at this stage, but not super unexpected. It's kind of that nice mix of very, very good players who beat good players to get there, if that makes sense. So Svitolina.
I mean, the big one for her was the third round against Paolini. We mentioned it in the preview. I did have Paolini actually winning that, and she won the first set like easily, and then actually it was the opposite. Svitolina just blitzed her, so that was really, really impressive.
It was honestly quite bizarre, because I was watching I actually sent a message to group chat, because I was watching this first set and I was like, okay, Svitolina doesn't win this match because she's playing quite well, but I just think at the moment Paolini is basically a better version of her. I mean, their games aren't super similar, but in the way that I just don't see how this turns around. Paolini's not gonna, again, she's not gonna get tired, she's not gonna give up. Nothing's gonna break down. She's not like a huge ball basher where she'll suddenly start missing. It just looked like, here's a slightly better version of you in this first set, and I turned it off because I was like, I feel quite confident about that. Having, before the match, thought this could be an interesting matchup. Svitolina could win this. And then she turned it around, and I obviously wasn't watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I think she was just really, really firing. I think her serve in the first set especially was like really excellent. It can be, we know it can be, but it's like kind of on and off. But sometimes her first serve can be kind of overwhelming in a way. And it seems like it's just what happened here. And she was, like blasting winners, and we know that's what she can do now. That's what she's going to go for more often than not even. So yeah, pretty impressive. And as for Keys, I mean, the biggest match would be the one she just won like today, which was against Rybakina. I didn't see that much of it. I saw like the end stage, and actually Keys like really clutched it. Like suddenly for the like last 2 or 3 games, just winners everywhere, strong serving. She just took it from Rybakina.
I'm looking at Keys' draw right now. I think it's kind of tricky because she had a 3-setter against Rusa, who can be pretty good on her day. I think she had a tight match against Krejcikova in Wimbledon. Is that right? The one that Krejcikova won. So it's a bit of a maybe if you beat Rusa in 3, that's a good sign for you. And then she played Danielle Collins, who that was a weird match. It could have been really good.
It was so flat.
It was so flat. And I think, you thought maybe Danielle Collins is going to have this back and forth with the Australian crowd again, but it just kind of felt like a bit sad. I think she got injured at some point. She did that thing where she doesn't sit down at the changeovers anymore.
You know what I think happened? Collins, I think she liked, being super hyped up and, really being really loud and stuff. That's and even fighting with the crowd. That's just kind of her shtick most of the time. But when she faces someone she really likes or she really respects, it can just kind of go off. She just won't do anything at all. She will look really, really flat. I always remember her match against actually Serena Williams at the 2021 Roland Garros, where honestly Serena did look fairly vulnerable coming in. And Collins was playing pretty well, so you felt like she could do something. And she was just flat as a pancake, couldn't get anything going, and Serena just won. And you felt that Collins wasn't really able to, have her usual intensity, have her usual fight, which is essential. That's maybe her defining feature, apart from, her backhand or something.
Yeah. I think that's I hadn't really kind of made that connection before, but it's obviously because there's so many Americans on tour and so many of them are friends.
They really like each other.
Yeah, they like each other and they all went to each other's weddings and stuff like that. But no, it's a good point. And I mean, it was a weird match. Keys just kind of broke at the right time, I think it was. The Rebecca match, that was good. I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing, so... but I watched the highlights and you're right. I think Madison Keys hit this huge forehand down the line when she had deuce on her serve and it was massive and it kissed the line and she was really up for it. I love this matchup. As we mentioned before, it's really good to watch. I think she's now 3-2 in that matchup in that head-to-head. I think Madison Keys is just absolutely excellent to watch, and sometimes the ball doesn't go in. Who cares? I don't care.
Yeah, and it might be the best we have seen of her yet. It's a strong possibility at this stage, which I think is really exciting. We have, I think, to mention the fact that Rybakina did pull up injured in the last round. She had a back injury, and actually, I didn't watch most of it, but it's actually really funny because I think everyone could see she was injured. She had this long, how do you call it, medical timeout. Yeah, and so. The logical thing to do for the opponent is, make the point last, make it physical, make it difficult. And who won't do that, can't do that? Jan Strömska. I think she just kept, not moving at all, kept going for winners that she just missed all of them. Yeah, kind of. Honestly, kind of the ideal opponent in this situation, she just played like Rybakina wasn't injured. And obviously, if you just eat at her, she's going to hit better than Jastrzębska. So
that's funny. Yeah. So I mean, we kind of mentioned before about Rebecca's coaching situation, but she still has these ongoing injury concerns.
It's so common. It's really wild.
Yeah, I mean, it is a kind of thing where, especially in tennis where there's literally zero off season and a lot of on season and a lot of times when you're supposed to be playing your top level, sometimes you can injure something and then it's kind of on the mend, but while trying to prevent further injury to that thing, you're putting a bit more weight onto this thing. Your service motion is a bit different because your knee is injured, something like that. So I do think sometimes these injuries can compound and you've got this thing injured and you don't have enough time for it to be completely healed again, so a different part gets injured that's kind of being overworked to make up for that. It's a shame, and I do hope we get a proper full season of her this year, because it's such a bizarre thing where people really acknowledge her as being elite, top 5 in results and in also in caliber. She plays good matches against the top players and she wins a lot of these 500s, but it's just right now kind of still missing at the 1000s and the slams in the way that the others are making it there.
It feels there's always something, always something going on. So yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I hope she'll finally, be healthy-ish soon.
I do I do want to talk a bit more on both Keys and Svitolina because I'm wary that it might be the last chance that we get to talk about them. I don't think, they're favoured, really, in this, to come through to the final, I mean. I think this kind of current chapter in both of their careers is interesting because you're at the point with both of them where it's like if you want to win one of these slams, you got to get going, and both of them have been hindered by the fact that they kind of struggle in the final moments, especially Madison Keys. She played awfully in that one final she did play, and then she choked that lead to Sabalenka in the US Open the year 2023. So I understand that this can kind of come as baggage, but I also think sometimes when it's at the end of your career, not the end of their careers, okay, because Svitolina's 30 and Madison Keys is 29, but perhaps at the end of their top level, coming towards the end of their top level, especially considering the talent that is coming up or already here, it can almost kind of get you into a zone of like, okay, let's cut the bullshit now. It's like it's now or never. Let's stop messing around. I don't have next chances. I don't have tons of years to keep going. And they just kind of, it's almost like you're tired of losing from the same situation. You're tired of wasting opportunities. And I'm really interested because a lot of people would say Madison Keys, great player, but she always puts herself in these situations or often puts herself in these situations and can't convert. I can honestly see it happening. I could see her winning a slam because I think she's in this place now where she's still good enough, but is just exhausted of wasting those opportunities. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, here I actually think her odds are decent, well, it's obviously a big if, but top form Keys can win this title. It's possible. It's not unlikely, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked because you just know that level is in there. And she has been like in really great form. So I can see it. And also on the whole failing at the latter stages, Svitolina has a slam semi block, I think. She whenever she makes one, she doesn't win games, barely any. So I think they are in a pretty similar spot. That's a good comparison, and it will be interesting to see them actually face off.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing of let's put Mukova and Ons Jabeur in a slam final and see what would happen because one of them has to win it. I think on Svitolina, this is good. So since her comeback from having a baby, she is 27-7 in slams. She lost to Sabalenka when Sabalenka was the second seed, Vondrousova when Vondrousova won Wimbledon, Pegula when Pegula was the third seed, Rybakina twice as the fourth seed, Goff as the third seed, and then Noskova that would have been last year in the Australian Open when she had that good run. Yeah, so really, it's hard to fault her comeback slam prowess. Yeah. I mean, those are players you really expect her to lose to. So, I don't know. It's just kind of impressive, I would say. Very impressive.
She's been excellent, actually way more so than everywhere else. She has had okay results on tour, but I don't know if she has made maybe one or two finals at most. That's really where when she shows up, She's like a late Djokovic. Suddenly that's what she's doing. She's picking at the slam. She's managed to find a way.
I do think that's a thing that happens when you get a little bit older. Again, we're talking about these people who've... Keys is not even 30 yet, but they are kind of deep in their careers. They both have been good for a long time. That, bringing it every single tournament is super hard, especially when Svitolina got tons of titles, or quite a few titles. If you imagine a finite amount of energy, let's save it for the slams. I don't know. Oh, Madison Keys is only 4 years older than Rybakina.
So that's kind of interesting to think about. Well, it feels like it should be way more.
It feels like it should be 10.
Aware. Yeah, we've been aware. She has been the factor at top 20 echelon-ish for 10 years almost, and it's been only 3-ish years for Rybakina. So
I mean, I do think Rybakina was quite sudden. Her rise in the end of 2019 was so fast, but it's so weird to think about, I don't know, Keys, almost longevity. Very, very impressive.
I mean, it is. I think, did you see that stat about her slam wins.
Yeah, more than Halep.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. I think she has like 12 second weeks or something of like it's so many. She's
Great player. I would
be so it would be so great for her to win.
I would love her to win.
I really want it. Yeah.
I would love her to win a slam that I rate higher than the Australian Open.
That's so funny.
I'm happy for it to happen wherever. She would take anything. I would take anything, of course.
Yeah.
But it would be awesome. And obviously, I guess we can move on to the expected semi-finals and finals from here, unless you had anything else to say about those.
Yeah, no, let's go for it.
So, what are you thinking from this? I think we probably have the same predictions out of all of these. What are your semi-finals?
I have Goff facing Sabalenka, and I have Świątek facing Keys. I think it's really, really likely actually that we get these. They feel like the most informed players. Actually, they don't feel like they are the most informed players. They have matchups that seem manageable. I think we're getting that, which is really exciting. That's about as good as you could ask for, honestly.
That would be. I mean, Sabalenka won a title already this year. Keys won a title already this year. Coco won the United Cup. Iga's eager, so that would be pretty kind of high profile. I could see. I hope it doesn't happen. I could see Keys going a bit off the rails, I guess, and Svitolina's a fighter.
I think that's the tightest of the matches.
Just yeah, for sure. Yeah. For fun, I am going to take Emma Navarro over Iga. I'm going to say that it's going to be Sabalenka, Goff, Keys, Navarro, 3 Americans. And then what do you think about those matches? What are your finals going to be from them?
I think I'll go Sabalenka over Goff. I think I will. And then Keys Świątek is really tough because there are like so many ways it could go. Recently, that matchup has gone. Actually, not just recently. It has mostly been going in Iga's favor.
Yeah, I think it's all quite easy wins apart from the Cincinnati.
It's the one win apart from Cincinnati in 22. I do favor Iga here, like slightly. So yeah, I'm expecting number 1 against number 2, which is not something I've done for the last 8 times.
Yeah.
This time it's the one. It's the one.
Okay, I mean, again, they're both kind of interesting in that. I mean, they don't even exist yet, but they would both be interesting matches because this Sabalenka Goff one I find really hard to almost analyze or predict because Sabalenka has kind of an issue with Coco, but then Coco had kind of an issue with that match in China. I don't remember where it was, but I don't know. They
double faults galore.
You know what?
That's what it was.
Yeah, just a million double faults and lost leads. They were both losing leads. They were both. Yeah. So I think it's always a kind of ugly.
It's a good. I don't think it like always yields like high quality, but it always yields drama, like a lot of it, bunch of it.
Specifically, that's the thing is that like a lot of these other matches, even if they're tight, they're kind of predictably tight. Like I know what to expect from this Rybakina Keys matchup, and I know what to expect from even a Rybakina Sabalenka matchup, but for some reason the Coco Sabalenka, it just goes wrong in different ways each time, and like different players are crumbling, and who's having the yips at this point and who's having the yips at this point. It's
I mean, last year that match was actually really, really good. Probably the highest quality match they ever played, I would say.
In China.
No, in
in Australia.
It
was a straight
the
set.
semis last year. It was straight set, but really, really tight, really high quality. Quality-wise, one of the better matches that Goff played last year, I think. So that's pretty exciting.
One thing I don't want to watch is Madison Keys Coco Goff final. They play the ugliest matches ever. I mean, really maybe worse than a Kostyuk Goff final. That would be.
I would be so scared of a repeat of the 2017 USO final where it's just peak baseballing Madison Keys. Oh my god!
I think it was that. I think it was in Dubai a few years ago or something like that when they played, and they both said just I don't know what was going. It was the worst match. It was the worst match. The kind of thing where you just laughing throughout it.
Hopefully, yeah, we can avoid that. So who's your winner?
Oh, it's so tricky because a three-peat would be really, really exceptional and like kind of scary, but it's looking likely. I know Iga's playing really, really well, even though I just kind of picked her to go out to Navarro.
Yeah.
Let me take I don't know. I think Sabalenka is going to beat Navarro in the final.
Okay. I think Sabalenka will beat Swiatek in the final.
I mean, if that match happens, it will be pretty crazy because
I've been wanting it. I think so many people have the Swiatek Sabalenka final at the Slam. It's, I think we can say it's so far the two best players of the decade. So it's kind of wild that I actually haven't played a Slam final. It feels like something is wrong in the universe until I have done it. So I'm really pulling for that.
Maybe there's a stat there about most head-to-head matches and most kind of shared titles and most combined weeks in the top two without ever facing in a Slam final.
Yeah.
Have they even faced in a Slam? Yeah, they played the US Open semi. Okay.
Yeah, they did, but not a final. And actually, I think this might be like the closest we have gotten to a Slam where they are both like really excellent.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. One of them can kind of struggles, the other is playing great. This time seems like it could be the one, and seems like it could be great.
Sabalenka was good in Roland Garros, I think, until the sickness thing.
Yeah, true. I think it can happen at RG. I think it's fairly likely as well. But we'll.
I don't think we're having it. If we do, I actually really expect Iga to win because I think she's playing really well. But I don't think we're getting it. I think Emma Navarro's beating Iga and Madison Keys, maybe both of them in 3 sets.
Oh, that would be a fun, a fun run. 3 sets every single match. 16 hours on the way to the final. And let's go to the men's, where we have on the top half Yannick Sinner facing Alex de Minaur, as well as oh my god, I'm forgetting something again.
Ben Shelton against Lorenzo Sonego. So Sinner, de Minaur, Shelton, Sonego, Djokovic, Alcaraz, Tommy Paul, Zverev.
As we alluded to in the preview, this draw still is, always was, kind of unbalanced. And it really feels like it now. Because, Sinner has been generally pretty dominant, as you would expect, except for this one, like, really weird match against Ruin today, which pretty hard to really know what that was because he didn't, like, really go into details. So for those who didn't, like, keep up or watch, they played 4 kind of weird sets where one of them was always kind of struggling. Sinner looked like really ill at some point. He took like a really long off-court medical timeout, and then came back playing kind of decent. And then Rune like really felt his knee and kind of crumbled from there. That was in the 3rd set. So really like scrappy kind of weird stuff. Some excellent points, but overall not really high quality. So mainly I think the big question for Sinner here is, are you healthy? If he is, I don't think he's ever losing that much to de Minaur, honestly. It's the new version of, Djokovic against Monfils. That's that level of really one-sided matchups where one just doesn't seem to have the ability to just beat the other, like, or even do damage. I think de Minaur has won like 1 set in 9 matches. That's nothing. And a tiebreak as well.
Yannick, fortunate with this quarterfinal draw, I guess you could say. I mean, I don't think it really matters because like as you say, when he's healthy, most players are a good draw for him, but this is a kind of particularly comfortable one. You got a feel for de Minaur a bit, I think, who's been having quite a good run in the last few seasons and then keeps meeting players he really doesn't want to meet. He's got that. I don't know if there's someone like it in the WTA, but like there's just a bunch of players that he really cannot beat, and even like Tsitsipas is in that group, and I trust Tsitsipas. Even modern day Tsitsipas to beat de Minaur is just a bit of a nightmare with some of these players.
Yeah, I mean I think it touches on his limits as a player, which he seems to keep pushing. That's a good thing. I don't think many people would have expected de Minaur to be top 8, which he was last year, and seems like he could even improve on that this year. So he's getting better, but when it comes to really pushing certain players, like, well, mostly really elite players, seems like there's still like an extra level that he might not have access to. And especially against Sinner, I don't see it happening at all. It really depends how Yannick pulls up. Is he still ill? I guess we'll see.
He's kind of shown over the last year that he can win with all these other injuries, illnesses, things like that. I think he had an injury at the US Open, potentially.
I don't think it was much at all. Actually.
Okay.
She was pretty fresh.
I pretty much trust him with like 2 days off to kind of be good enough to win that de Minaur match. Funny thing about these guys that the 2019 Next Gen Finals, de Minaur was the number 1 seed. He was really, really expected to win. Yannick was the wild card guy who's on the rise. Italian guy, we'll give him a wild card in, who won the event in the end. But I always like these inter Next Gen Finals matchups later in their career. But it's funny kind of looking back now. de Minaur was the hyped one, and like rightly so. Yannick a bit of an unknown where we are now. The winner of that would face the winner of Ben Shelton and Lorenzo Sonego.
I mean, Sonego is an interesting one. He's 29. That's his first ever Slam quarterfinal.
No way! He's the same age as Madison Keys.
It is.
So,
and so
he's a guy I look at and I think, oh yeah, like a plucky 24-year-old. Like, oh.
No, not anymore. But yeah, it's really funny his run actually. So what happens is a teenager beats a top player, and he shows up next round and he finds a way. He kind of picks up the scraps, honestly. He has faced Lorna Tien, who was just, I think, on the ropes after a really, really physical match against Medvedev, which was really exciting. And he also beat Fonseca after he had that huge win against Rublev. So it's kind of a funny run, but he played really well in all of these matches, so he has earned his place. And he has, for your only and first Slam quarterfinal, there are worse draws than Ben Shelton. That sounds kind of rude. Ben Shelton is good. He's expected to win this, but it could be worse. It could be Alcaraz, It could be Sinner.
Another note on Sonego. Okay, so he played Tien one match down from the Medvedev one. So Tien played Mute in between. So
Mute was also really injured.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
a theme of the first week. People play these really, really long matches, really intense. And then next match is just, or maybe the match after that, they can't do it anymore.
Yeah, so a sort of strange run for Sonego, but he's not the guy, at least in my mind, he's not a guy where it's like, oh, he's really just, ploughed through a super lucky draw. Obviously, he's been fortunate. I don't think he's faced a seed yet. But I really think on his day, he's really good. He's a very good ball striker. He's
so fun. So fun to watch.
Yeah, he's not quite my taste. I don't love the grunts, as loads of people don't.
It used to really bother me, yeah.
He's good to watch on mute. And he's a very talented ball striker, and I kind of like, if there is a player who's going to sort of wrestle their way through a draw and find themselves in the quarterfinal, I'd like it to be him, because I think he's a guy who could upset. He's probably not going to upset the very best, but he's also not going to he's not a walking by.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for the both of them, I would say. Shelton, as we know, has a knack for really showing up for the slams. That's probably still the defining feature of his career so far. He just shows up. He's competes so well, wins all of the tiebreaks basically. Yeah, trusts himself, backs himself to play well on the big points, and and that could be his second slam semifinal if he comes through. That's pretty impressive.
Do you know what he is?
A big match player.
He is a big match player, yeah. Ben Shelton is a very rare breed of male big match player.
That is true.
No, but you can tell, he does really well with the atmosphere. It's said to death that these college players do well in that scenario, but I really do think he does. I think he seems to benefit from best of five in some way that most tie-break heavy serve botty guys don't. But he's obviously his slam record, especially hardcourt slam record, speaks for itself. He got through thanks to another kind of, some other guy's going to do the dirty work for me and then I'll pick up the pieces. Okay, he beat Lorenzo Mazzetti, who's a higher seed than him, and that's a good win. Mazzetti was not very good, but then got a retirement win against Monfils. He's leading 2-1, having played 3 tiebreaks. Monfils took out Taylor Fritz in the round before.
Yeah, that was an excellent performance, actually.
Yeah, so
one of his best.
Yeah, so again, I think like this is a thing of a bit of a mirror to the women's draw. I think of Gael Monfils, he's obviously a lot older than them, Svitolina and Keys, but he's in a similar place where it's like he's not going to win a slam, but it is a now or never, and it's a bit more of these are the last opportunities. Let's see what I can do with it. But yeah, a huge win against Taylor Fritz. He had a pretty hard draw, but then had to retire against Ben Shelton. So that's kind of how Shelton's found his way again in another quarterfinal.
Yeah, and I mean, he should be favoured, I believe. Like maybe not by that much.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will be in the kind of like official things. I pick Sonego, but maybe I do underrate Ben Shelton because sometimes I'll think this is a guy that you can beat, and then I watch him and I'm like, actually no, he's really good. He hits the ball really hard and he's got like great volleys and stuff and left-handed tacks.
Huge serve.
Like that the next generation of serving where it's like you don't have to be tall if you can jump high or whatever. JJ Wolf's got that same thing. They really jump into the serve. They've both got really big serves. I don't know.
Isn't Shelton kind of tall there?
He's not
Opelka tall.
Yeah, he's not
pretty tall.
I think he's probably, if you looked at like someone should make this ace to serve speed to height or ace to height thing, I reckon he'd be quite high up on there, along with like I think he's shorter than like Tsitsipas, pretty sure.
Need to check.
It's hard to know. Sometimes I just decide how tall someone is based on their height. Like Iga is like twice as tall as I thought she was because she used to serve like Kasatkina or some shit like that. But she's a normal height person, and Ons is tiny but great serve. So that's it. So Yannick Sinner will get Alex de Minaur, and then potentially, if he wins that match, Ben Shelton and Lorenzo Sonego for.
I mean, I think he has like great head-to-heads against like all of them, so that's really favourable.
Yeah, although Ben Shelton beat him in that puke match
in Shanghai.
Yeah,
it was like his only loss before the ATP Finals final at the end of 23, but still favourable matchup.
Oh no, for sure.
So moving on to the much more honestly exciting and interesting bottom half, where we have Carlos Alcaraz facing against Novak Djokovic. That's the big matchup. And then we also have Tommy Paul facing against Alexander Zverev. I got that one, thank God. Both are, I would say, pretty exciting, but the big one, the headline, one of the more exciting slam quarter you can have really on the ATP Tour. What do you have on it?
Oh, I could talk for ages on this matchup because
I'm sure
not. I could talk for ages on anything, but specifically I could talk for ages on this matchup. I think it is good on paper, it is good in reality, it is good in narratives. I think it's just good all round. They've got what is it? It's 4-3 to Djokovic now. I think he's losing in the best of fives though. He's got it's 2-1 to Alcaraz in slam matches. Yeah, 2-1 to Alcaraz in slam matches. So Alcaraz got the win in Madrid, Wimbledon final, and Wimbledon final. Djokovic got the win in Roland Garros. That cramp match. He got a win in Cincinnati, ATP finals, and the Olympics. Yeah, so Djokovic won their last match, as everyone I'm sure remembers. Alcaraz won their last slam match. So it's super exciting. I think at this point in both of their respective careers, I think it's, again, if Djokovic can pull it out again, it will be pretty much a miracle. I think his Paris performance was literally a miracle. I think he was still quite badly injured, and I think he's in a better place with his body and maybe even with his game as well right now than he was for most of last year. I love the matchup. That Cincinnati match is one of the best I've ever watched in best of three. Yeah, I don't know. I think it could go... That's another thing. I think it could go a lot of ways. I think it could be Alcaraz being pretty much flawless and Djokovic being that when your goat is washed meme. I think it could be a tight match between both of them, with Alcaraz being the clutcher one. I think it could be a tight match between the both of them, with Djokovic being the clutcher one. And I think it could be, it could even stretch to it being Djokovic being super, super, super on it and just like navigating everything that Alcaraz has to give him and just kind of making it a Djokovician match and winning in like 3 or 4 relatively tight sets. I don't know. I'm so excited for it.
It is like so exciting. What I do want to point out is we mentioned it in the preview. That was on paper fairly difficult draw for Djokovic to even get to that quarters, and he did really quite well. He had like the classic, like random sets drop. To like people he shouldn't lose sets to. Honestly,
I do think he likes to go. This is the biggest match of your career. Here's a set. You get to win a set on Rod Laver. Have a great career. Good luck to you.
He's like the evil Iga Świątek.
He's a Robin Hood.
Yeah, Iga Świątek is the evil.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but yeah, but when he has faced players who were actually more dangerous, he actually won in 3, so that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah.
As far as like his form.
So I will talk a bit actually about the Djokovic matches because I think I watched him the most because I really wanted to get a gauge on how he was playing and how it's going to look for him in the later stages. Round 1 was that Bassa Veredi, the guy who plays like Djokovic, and he really does. It's exciting to see what will come of him, but I think we'll talk about him more in the recap. And then he played this Portuguese guy, Faria, who qualified, and I actually didn't watch any of that match. But then he got this Mahac Lehečka Czech back-to-back situation. Both slippery matches, both feel like they could go 5. Both very talented players, in my opinion. I think especially in the Lehečka match, he used his I'm Djokovic. Lehečka was timid at times and making poor decisions and feeling the effect. So I think it's interesting to know he's still got that aura. I do think a lot of it was aura. He's obviously better than both of them, but it wasn't like I'm playing so well that you can't win a set type thing. I am watching out for, in this Alcaraz-Djokovic match, whether Djokovic's ability to show up for the big matches is repeatable. Because at the moment I feel like he can't play at the level, or even like particularly close to his level for most matches of the season, and that's why he lost to Luca Nardi last year. He, losing all these matches that usually he'd win with his eyes closed. But we saw in the Olympics that the top level or close to the top level still exists if you can find the motivation for it. If you dangle a carrot that's tempting enough for him. So I'm very fascinated to find out how tempting the Grand Slam carrots are now for him, because he's obviously got what he was chasing, and he's at a very comfortable place now. Whether he can find that motivation, and maybe I'm putting too much weight on it, but I think this Australian Open will tell a lot about his future, and especially his future as a competitor with Sinner and Alcaraz. I mean, he could still win a slam where Botu van der Zandschulp knocks one of them out early and illness knocks the other one out early or something like that. But whether he can find it within him to compete with them when they are there, I think this match is going to give us a lot of insight into that. And I think for him as well, he'd find out.
Right, yeah. I mean, I fully agree. As far as like more maybe technical components of the matchup goes, I think it's worth pointing out that Alcaraz has a new serve, and it's really impressive because it seems like it's a fairly different like motion, and like something that you can actually like notice like looking at it, and like with comparison clips and stuff, it's working well already. It takes some time usually when you change something like to this extent. It takes maybe a few months. He's already serving great, so that's probably feels really great for him. And also that's relevant in the Djokovic matchup, especially because I think that's one of the things that has most dropped in Djokovic's level over the past series. His returns against first serves. It used to be like the big thing, like the thing he had over like everyone else. I think it has like dropped down a bit. Like if you remember like some of his performances against Sinner, he couldn't like get a break point to save his life. That would never happen with like the best version of Djokovic.
I absolutely agree. You can just you don't even have to look at the stats sheet. You can watch him and think, God, what's happening with all these returns? We used to be in all these games. It's probably, if you're thinking from a really kind of simplistic point of view, it makes sense that a first serve return is one of the first things to go with age. It's all about, or a lot of it's about your reaction time, and that does kind of disappear quite quickly. Although Monfils was excellent against Giovanni Mapecci-Pericard, so maybe Djokovic just needs to get back on the practice court. But you're right, I am concerned about the return, and I think this is a part of his game I also believe was sort of controlled by his desire and his will. With a lot of these top players, you'd sometimes see him basically lock in for a return game and say, okay, now we're 4-4 in a slam, and it's Federer or Zverev or a huge server. Let me just get these first returns in play, and he can kind of turn it on when he needs to and put those returns at your toes on the baseline, hit some winners. Maybe I'm putting too much weight on this motivation aspect, and maybe the skill is pretty much gone and he'll have to find other ways to beat Alcaraz, or maybe we might see it coming back. He'll have a good returning performance there, but I completely agree. His return is unfortunately not where it used to be, and it's a shame because it was so good.
Yeah, I mean, he is the best returner ever, like by far.
Yeah, I agree with that. I hate when people say one of the best returners ever. It's like, come on now. I mean, come on.
The one category where you just know. There's like no question about it.
Maybe this is just on this one match. I don't think he's hitting his ground strokes as big as he was like the last 2 years at the Australian Open, and particularly the one he won. I don't know if this is a tactical choice or...
If you remember, in 23 he was actually injured at AO.
Yes.
And so it kind of was also a tactical thing where not moving as well, let me just hit everything super hard, and he actually pulled it off, which is kind of insane. But I think that also had to do with it.
But I would quite like to see a bit more of that back. I mean, I think he's probably constantly changing his game to adapt to his new physical abilities, and he's probably one of the best ever at changing his game all the time. But I'm intrigued to see how he approaches this matchup against Alcaraz. Typically, Wimbledon final last year aside, which, if I'm being honest, I think was not a tank, but I don't think it was particularly relevant in terms of their entire head-to-head story. I think that was him seeing how he could do with the injury. It wasn't really the goal that year, but all of his other performances aside from that, he's come out really well. And that is the one thing that he makes sure against Alcaraz, is that I need to start the match well. I think he is aware that sometimes Alcaraz doesn't start a match well, and so he can say, let me get an early break, let me get an early set even. And it tells quite a lot about the match dynamics, I think, how he is in those early stages.
And probably he doesn't, like, he won't bank on outlasting Alcaraz, you know.
Oh, for sure not.
It's unrealistic, so...
Yeah, maybe we'll see ball bash Djokovic back, because also I don't think he can scrap better than him. I mean, when you list the skills Alcaraz has, it is really difficult to imagine anyone being able to beat him, because I just think like this guy hits crazy big, both wings, especially the forehand. He moves like nothing I've ever seen before. He's got the tools. He's a big match player. It's just about how all those elements come together, and particularly I think Djokovic and Sinner are good foils for that, because they can take away this unpredictability and this a lot of what Alcaraz's game has going for it. They can both counter that. They're obviously also two of the best players in the world, but before these matchups with Djokovic and Alcaraz, I always find it hard to see how Djokovic wins. And then when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's how.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of like ball bashing, that's on paper something he can do better than Alcaraz. I think he's still like a cleaner ball striker, purely. Like, really not the case anymore over the past few matches. The way Sinner can pressure Alcaraz, that's something Djokovic can pull off as well, I think. So maybe we'll see that, but either way,
Alcaraz can get rushed on his forehand, and the deep and hard shots that both Sinner and Djokovic can produce consistently do that nicely. also their deep and hard returns. Oh, I'm super excited.
It should be really fun. And then we have, well, another decent matchup, but after that it feels really interesting. We have Tommy Paul against Zverev.
Tommy Paul vying to become Zverev's daddy.
As per Shelton's reference, where he explained that in the locker room, if someone beats you 3 times, they become your daddy, which I don't know about all that, but that's what Tommy Paul is going for.
In chess, if you beat someone 10 times in a row, it's called adoption, which I was trying to make it become a thing. That Djokovic has adopted Monfils, and I think he's adopted Tsitsipas at this point. So Tommy Paul 2-0 against Zverev. It's a nice head-to-head. Do you know when they happened? Let's have a look.
I think he beat him once in Indian Wells.
He did. It was Cam Norrie. It was Cam Norrie's Indian Wells. It was the quarterfinals. I think.
And then another one, which was
Acapulco in 2020. So they're a long time ago, but definitely Tommy Paul's the one who's improved more in that time.
Yes.
Excellent player, in my opinion. I love him. He's got tools.
Really fun.
Great to watch. Yeah, he's the kind of I think in that mold of a bit Rooney, a bit Davidovich Fokina-y, where it's like we might play 5 sets, but there will probably be a bagel in there. I'll lose a bagel, I'll also win a bagel. He's kind of become a bit more consistent recently with that. I think that could be a great match, and I just definitely think that Tommy Paul has everything that's needed to beat Zverev. What do you think?
Tommy Paul just officially a top 10 player for the first time, which well deserved, I think. She's been on the brink for quite a while.
Yeah.
I think there is potential here. I think he might be able to pull it off, but also Zverev, unfortunately, has looked imperious, I'll have to say. I haven't watched much of it, but the scorelines are pretty self-explanatory. His draw hasn't been that difficult, but sometimes he has easy draws and he still finds a way to, lose sets for no reason. Not the case here.
I think since the Roland Garros injury, he's kind of cleaned up in that way of these 5-set matches against players that you just don't need to be playing 5 sets against. And is Zverev in a slam, so I'm just not really ever convinced by a draw or a form or stats or the serving percentage, any of this kind of thing. I look at the kind of who's the guy who's in front of him now and what will be the matchup of that. I mean, he had these losses to Fritz last year. You'd think he should probably win those matches based on their caliber, and I think Tommy Paul has more to trouble Zverev. Yeah, so and obviously that seems to be the case from the past 2 matches. It's not a big enough sample size to go off, and obviously it was a long time ago, but Tommy Paul, great returner, excellent mover. I kind of think if he can make that a scrappy all-court battle and force Zverev to hit some volleys and things, was Bublik's kind of game plan against him, and you can beat Zverev that way. I think he has a good chance, but a lot of match management to go into that.
Yeah, and also a lot of it, as it often is the case with Zverev, it depends on can he produce on his forehand in big moments. It lets him down to it's almost comical. You'll watch him in a tiebreak or something, and you can see when the forehand is going to go on him. It's sometimes actually kind of funny. But
if the forehand doesn't go, then he gets passive in those moments instead, and it's
that can happen too.
You're standing 100 meters behind the baseline, and some guy just starts serving volleying, and this is a very simple way to beat him. I always think that this is kind of related to him, that in those tighter moments, players kind of resort to their natural instincts, and it's really, really hard to knock that out of you. When you look at someone like Caroline Garcia, who's taking the return from a meter away from the net, and everyone just says to her, just step back, just do what everyone else does. It's a first serve, it's a fairly good server. Just step back, give yourself some more time. But changing your nature is almost more disruptive than just doing the thing that sometimes doesn't work. And I think in that way that people resort to their nature. I think Zverev's nature is to be a pusher. His genetics didn't really give him the ideal sort of body for that, or the ideal tools or the ideal game for that. So he's got a bit of a disconnect with like how he really wants to play and how it feels natural for him to play versus how he should play based on what he's got. But it'll be interesting to see whether that kind of comes into play.
Honestly, like the whole surfboard pusher thing, I actually think it's been really consistent for him. You know, it doesn't feel like he should play that way, but also he has mastered it almost.
He has mastered it, but he hasn't slammed it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good one.
It's consistent, but I also think it's like, because when I find him most frightening is when he like unloads on the backhand, because it is just a phenomenal shot. It's very ugly in my opinion, but it's very devastating.
It's amazing, yeah.
And when I think, oh, this guy is super scary, is when he can kind of rely on the pushing to keep him in the point if he needs to. That's like the fallback. He's got really great defense for his size, but he is playing maybe not first strike tennis, but second or third strike tennis. That's when I think I'm going to turn it off because he's going to win. You're right, and he probably says that as well. This has been really consistent for me. I've been like a top 10 player for most of my career, but also you think like, would it be the way to win the biggest matches?
Well, I've said too many nice things about him.
I say this from a place of, you know, not being nice, but like trying to say how scary it can be, and yeah. Anyway, I think Tommy Paul got a good chance.
Yeah. So what do we have in these semis, quarters, men's predictions? Let's go for it.
Do you want to go? I'll go first because you went first on women. I think as long as Yannick can move around the court and finish a match, he's going to win that match. The other one's super tricky because I don't know what version of Sonego we're going to have. I don't know what the dynamics of the crowd is going to be. I'll go Sonego because I think it would be fun to have a Gen Italia slam semi-final. Yes. I'm going to skip that one, the third one, because I can't decide right now. I think Tommy Paul is going to win. And I think he's going to play Alcaraz. Sadly for me, I would love Djokovic to make it through that, but I think he's been really, really good, and I just think he's a pretty excellent player. And then that Tommy Paul-Alcaraz matchup is pretty fun.
It is. Yeah, you like it.
And then Sinner will play Alcaraz in the final, and Alcaraz will win. That's what I had before the tournament, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I think I'll have the same final actually. Semis, I do think they're more likely than not will come through that. And the reason, even more so, now that Djokovic, Alcaraz and Zverev actually all made the quarters, I feel even stronger about Sinner winning it, because there is like a pretty strong chance of like all of them like killing each other before they get to Sinner. And so, yeah, I do think Alcaraz will get there, but it's very likely that he'll get there with like 8 hours across quarters and semis, and then that's probably a bit too much of a gap to actually win the final. So
the question mark on this half, the Alcaraz Zverev matchup, like it's not a freebie for Alcaraz in the way that a lot of his matches are. He struggled quite a lot. I thought at some point he was over the struggles, but Zverev beat him this time in the same stage, or was it quarterfinals? Or
I think it was quarters last year.
Okay, yeah, I think he beat him also in the year-end finals last year.
Yes,
yeah.
I think so.
As excellent as Alcaraz is, for some reason there's a bit of an issue there with Zverev. I think Zverev likes being an underdog a lot, and I think that brings out the slightly more aggressive side in him. So if Carlos does beat Djokovic, he might fall to Zverev. So I'm just ignoring that possibility by saying that Tommy Paul's going to take him out. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then we get a fun matchup in the Alcaraz Tommy Paul.
Mm-hmm. And in that scenario, probably Alcaraz should be a bit fitter to take on Sinner. So it's probably a more exciting
Yeah,
scenario.
Although I think he might have to run more in the Tommy Paul match. These guys
True,
are...
But it could be shorter.
Could be.
I think that's quite a good amount that we have said about quarterfinals and semis and what we should expect from the remainder of this Australian Open action.
Any other business? Let's see. Oh, here's a fun fact, or whatever it is. Emma Navarro, when she played Kasatkina today, had 25 break points.
I can't actually believe we forgot that match. I love that match. I just wanted to say that. Really, really fun.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought it was a mess. I didn't watch it, but I assumed it would be a mess.
I mean, it was a mess.
Okay.
But third set, like the back end of the third set, was actually super high quality. I really loved it.
Okay. But 25 break points, I thought that was absolutely hilarious.
Quite a lot.
I'm interested to know maybe what's some of these records for most break points in a 3-set.
If you account for like men's matches, it's probably like way.
We'll just do 3-set women's matches at slams.
Oh.
Someone find out, please. Send us your predictions for the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. I'd love to hear what other people think. Keep sending the feedback. We appreciate from the first one.
Yes, thank you very much for that. It was really lovely to see the comments, see like the support. I hope you guys will tune in for this one and for the next one as well. And thank you so much.
And enjoy the rest of the AO.
Obviously, I fell a little short in the US Open, but my outfit was spectacular.